Likely to see a Timbersaw in the mid again as well. Like there are certain ways that they like to run this hero.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that now that you've already got the Faceless Void online, you've sort of secured what KP is going to do. That's something that has been a bit of a question mark from time to time, how they want to run it. But that does always give over the Wings Gaming Elder Titan and the Shadow Demon. Two heroes that do sort of fit within the way that they've run their drafts a couple of times. I think that just by and large, if you remember back to that game number 1 where it was the Medusa that ended up getting consistently disrupted as they were taking the high ground, I feel like that's somewhat replicatable with any other hero almost. Like Medusa still is great at it, but if you get a carry that's ranged and does a decent amount of damage by virtue of just leveling up stats, Shadow Demon is great for breaking high ground.
He's also great at countering out Faceless Void if you can keep him outside of the Chronosphere. You just either disrupt the Void or you disrupt his target, and there's nothing that can be done. In addition, inside of a Chronosphere, it's usually very easy to land a Soul Catcher, even if it's your opponent's Chronosphere. And you can throw Shadow Poison stacks over any of his allies that he manages to accidentally catch in it. Once again, Elder Titan, another decent hero at dealing with the Chronosphere. You throw an Astral Spirit in there, throw out an Echo Stomp, and you basically wait out the entire duration of that Chronosphere.
That does definitely feel like it could be a way to go with it. NewBee now trying to figure out what they want to go for as their second pick. We could see the Phoenix again. That's something that could work pretty well by them. Other heroes. Oh, a Witch Doctor. All right, a little bit of the bread and butter, the old school.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't preclude the Phoenix either. Witch Doctor does provide enough control around that egg in order to usually help protect the Supernova. I'd honestly be a little surprised if the Phoenix isn't banned here along with the Terrorblade.
Yeah, it's already the first one taken out, and the Terrorblade by the side of Wings Gaming. You seem to be careful. I guess the biggest thing for me about this NewBee draft is that I want to see a couple of other heroes that don't focus so heavily on the Chronosphere and allow another form of initiation so that you're not completely dependent upon that to be able to set up all of your team fights. Because that's how you end up losing the games, I feel like, more often than not with Faceless Voids drafts, is that you pick these heroes that are great when you hit the Chronosphere, but then you don't have the thing to set that up.
Yeah, so what we might see for that is a Slardar, potentially coming out in a 4 spot. Alternatively, something that they may consider going into is more of a pushy oriented mid. And there is going to be the Phoenix ban from Wings Gaming, no surprises at all. I'm curious exactly the way NewBee go with it, because for Faceless Void, if they are going to run that as your offlaner, which I think they typically do, you really just need it for control. But if you're going to run it as the carry, what you need is something to modify his attack speed in addition to make sure that he's able to do damage in the mid game, because a carry Faceless Void takes a little while to get off the ground.
10 seconds remaining.
Well, we'll see if that's indeed what they're going to go for. I guess it could work as a How hero, but I've just seen KP run it so well time and again that I almost feel like that might end up... I mean, they can kind of do whatever they want at this point. Juggernaut's going to be the option for Wings Gaming, another hero that creates some pretty devastating illusions, and having the opportunity to either be played in that mid lane or possibly drop down to the safe lane, where we've seen him a little bit less often nowadays. He's much more often been in the mid lane.
We don't see a lot of Shadow Demons, so I think fans would be forgiven for not knowing all of the exact mechanics of this hero. But bear in mind that Disruption Illusions, guys, have scaling damage. It's not like a Mantis style. So when you get up to level 4 on that Disruption, the illusion damage that your Juggernaut is doing is 75%. And you get 2 of them. You're essentially getting illusion damage worth more than the actual hero damage for a short period of time. So you get good right clickers alongside a Shadow Demon. You're right on point with that lyrical. It does make a pretty big difference. Or spirit some of that initiation that you were talking about, but it does also kind of synergize up with the Chronosphere. You're able to push and pull through the Chronosphere and then roll in and magnetize immediately out of the Chronosphere. I don't think we've seen a lot of Earth Spirit from NewBee this patch, but there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to run it basically the same way that they did on 687.
Kaka was kind of notorious for it leading up to the Manila Major, and
right.
the Wings Gaming never failing to disappoint. They bring out the big guns. 4th pick Huskar. Nothing else really showing in their draft that would have indicated that that's the route they're going to go for. Now, thing you need to be careful about with this lineup, and I don't know if they're going to go for it here. It feels like it might not be the best possibility, but they have in the past run an Alchemist with a Huskar when there wasn't any other defensive heroes, and he went like first item almost, Aghanim Scepter, and pulled that to the Huskar. And then it was just like devastating dunks all day long.
Huh. That is... I don't know if that's an upper bracket finals game 3 strategy. Because if that works, it really works. But if that fails, it really fails. I would, honestly, the Timbersaw is still in the pool. That Huskar... whether or not the Huskar is mid or the Juggernaut is mid, and either is possible, though I expect it to be probably the Huskar. Neither of those heroes fare particularly well against a one-on-one Timbersaw. They're both very right-click oriented, which means that the reactive armor would do very well. And Timbersaw is going to come up here for NewBee.
It makes sense. They also have a ton of stuns, so like stuns and disables great for being able to control Huskar. And now they've got the pure damage. They've got good physical damage from the Witch Doctor. I don't know. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. That's what I'll say about it. It's a bit of a rough one.
Yeah, and the Slark ban here, that's a pretty solid ban. The Slark doesn't pair with the Faceless Void particularly well, but everything else on the table implies a very ganky, skirmishy style draft that a Slark would play with pretty well. In terms of how might be holding, and remember, the Faceless Void could still be how, although I agree with you, I expect it to be KP. I'm not really sure what they go back to, though, is the thing. Like, he doesn't play that many heroes this patch, and the things that he does play that would synergize here are mostly banned out.
I wouldn't hate a Timbersaw being played in the safe lane by him, and then they could run, like, the Invoker in the mid lane, which also is a fairly decent combo with the Void. The only other hero that I could really think that would work well, Lifestealer banned out too. It's maybe a safe lane Axe to deal with the Huskar. It's not a terrible idea either.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate an Axe here. It is a little niche, and once again, we had said that some additional initiation would be nice for NewBee. It does work well into the Huskar. Yeah, it's a good call. Yeah, I don't know. Have you seen them run a safe lane Axe recently?
No.
Unfortunately, because it's Chinese Dota, it's not something that I've been able to follow as closely as I would like.
I haven't. I've never actually don't know if I've ever seen them run it, but they take the Dazzle into it. I mean, you can go aggressive with this lineup and try and punish early. Dazzle is good against Axe, and they actually are going to be running the safe lane Void that you were talking about. So this makes a lot more sense.
That makes a little more sense to me, yeah. But either way, the Axe pick here is really strong, especially leading into what looked like it very well could be a Dazzle pick with the Elder Titan taking a more core position. I think Wings Gaming were trying to signal that there's no way they would get a Dazzle because they have the Elder Titan Shadow Demon already. But NewBee seems to have seen through that a little bit as well. So all things said and done, I do think, honestly, it feels to me like NewBee have a draft that is better suited for NewBee's strengths, and also that is better suited against Wings Gaming. That doesn't necessarily mean NewBee will win, but I think that they did slightly take advantage out of the draft.
I would agree with you there. We're going to try one quick reconnect. Sometimes if you do a quick one, it ends up solving all the issues. The other thing that I would say about it, this as I'm looking at the draft, is it really does feel to me that if they get out of the lanes evenly, then NewBee should just crush. But like, if the Huskar is able to build some type of momentum and start to snowball a little bit, that's where things get very scary for the side of NewBee, is the roll up to the high ground. Kaka's going to place a ward, but they spotted this out. If they realize he's up on the cliff, are they capable of finding this kill?
Only if they get the... Yeah.
Oh, no. The poison.
Just 1 second until he can roll off, so he should be fine.
They're breaking it. Oh, 3 stacks, the right click? No, he's not going down.
Yeah, it's just... if... The irony there is if Innocence had gone for Disruption instead and then disrupted on the roll, they might have been able to do it with the Astral Spirit for Vision. But even that's a pretty long shot. And then you're scaling entirely for a maybe kill on the high ground.
Well, it does look like, at least for now, as we're heading off into this. The other thing that I will say about NewBee as a whole is that sometimes they're willing to take a lot of sacrifices, as we have a little bit of a battle for this starting rune. They're willing to sacrifice their early laning stage a little bit because they know that they're going to be able to group up and play well against their opponents. But if they do that too much in this game, I'm worried about what this Huskar is going to be able to accomplish. Shadow already going to be left to his own devices, a lane alone as KP heads towards the jungle.
All right, and it is actually going to be the Juggernaut mid, which we had mentioned was a possibility. Jug will fare better than Huskar would have, I think, here. He's just got a little bit more early lane sustain and is not quite so dependent on his right.
Rolling in, Faith Beyond stunned up. You have the stomp that's going to get thrown out, but How is still there and can go for a jump. Chuan, a heal bomb comes in. They're able to get first blood, and I didn't think that they were going to be able to do that enough since Innocence does not have disruption, but still walking next to him, they kill off that Witch Doctor. Really well played, and you see that that's the sort of dynamic that we were talking about in the draft a little bit, is that if you do have the disruption into the combo there, it's a lot of damage, that heal bomb.
Yeah, I mean, the synergy here is tremendous, right? You've got the disruption into the stomp. You've got then the illusions to add to the heal bomb, and a very easy Warcraft 3 block around these trees as well. And just some denies coming out as the lane starts to reset. NewBee are going to have to be careful.
The thing I will say about this is that because the Disruptor ended up taking the Shadow Poison first, that is not going to be a kill that's as easily replicatable until they get level 2, which isn't the easiest thing in the world in this type of a lane.
Yeah, they should be able to get it off of this next wave of creeps as long as the Shadow Demon's getting fairly close to the experience range. But, How is sitting here with 5 tangos and half health. His regen is largely being chewed through. And the nice thing about the Shadow Poison is that it's not very susceptible to being time walked off, because it's a lot of really nitpicky damage over time, right? So how isn't it exactly able to just walk it away?
Kaka taking some more damage here as well. Yeah, that is something that's definitely a bit of a frustrating situation. Blink also maybe in a little bit of trouble. They have that one point in the Whirling Death, so Moo's been able to bully him somewhat, getting a 10-3 at the start of this, but you can see the big sort of factor is this Axe jungling KP, already level 4, and is sort of sharing the top of the CS mark with this Huskar in the safe lane.
Yeah, granted, the jungle creeps that he's getting are not worth the same amount that the creeps that the Huskar is getting, but he is still somewhat keeping up, right? He's getting what he needs, and the Axe, because he's such a hard counter to the Husk and the Dazzle, and specifically the Husk-Dazzle combination, it's probably worth it to give the Huskar farm as long as the Axe is getting reciprocated farm.
Oh, and KP is going to get disrupted here. Innocence might be able to do a little something. He needs to TP out of there and is going to try and go for it. He's going to be able to survive. Good recognition. That would have definitely been a kill if he would have stuck around there. And now maybe going to be able to do a little bit going back the other direction. This does leave the safe lane alone, and Hal has to be a little bit careful. But Chuan's going to punish Innocence slightly.
Yeah, unfortunately, part of the problem with this aggressive tri-lane coming out of Wings... Remember last game, I had praised the aggressive tri-lane as a concept, not necessarily as its execution, because the mid lane was so strong out of Wings Gaming that it forced favorable lanes in every other position. But in this case, Wings Gaming are blocking themselves into that aggressive tri-lane and forcing their own mid to play into an unfavorable position, and the Timbersaw is starting to take control of that lane. So instead of guaranteeing at least 2 favorable lanes, they're guaranteeing 1 with the Huskar. And as we said, the Axe being in the jungle does not exactly bode well for them anyway.
Oh man, and Moo almost got caught there. That would have been a really nice combination, but the Timber chain away, and Moo is able to take the Invis rune as well. That's a rolling boulder down towards the bottom, and they're going to be able to snag this one away from Jug as well. So left the lane for a little while, is not going to be able to get either of these runes, and a very frustrating start. But still the Huskar farms, and it's going to be able to at least start to do a little bit of damage here to this tier 1 tower in the bottom lane.
Yeah, up top, I think we just need to see more action up here, to be honest, for Wings Gaming to kind of justify these picks. Innocence did just pick up a TP, so He should be able to get back up there if he wants to. And I think he's just going to wait for the wards to be flown out to him on the courier, which is presumably what's happening now.
I just felt like they could have done so much more in that lane if they'd sort of saved for the disruption on the Shadow Demon, and because that didn't end up happening, it means that they couldn't sort of come out to a dominant start, and then once level 2s were online, you know, How is going to end up being able to get a bash chance. You've also got Witch Doctor, who's got the continuous heals, so you can't trade hits as effectively, and all in all, it just made it into such a more difficult lane than it needed to be. Blink does have level 6 now, so Moo needs to be a little bit careful about the potential for an Omni Slash, but at least for now you can see that all across the board, NewBee has been able to get off to a good start, and even though Wings is a little bit ahead in terms of the net worth, the CS and experience earned is into the favor of NewBee.
Yeah, so one thing that Wings are going to be able to turn into their favor here is the fact that, well, maybe I'll come back. Never mind. Okay. Yeah, one thing they're going to be able to turn into their favor here is the fact that Faceless Void as a carry, once again, does not get going that fast. So in order to really utilize the Void immediately out of the laning phase for advantage, they have to make sure, or NewBee would have to make sure that the combination is there, right? You've got the Timber Saw and the Witch Doctor making it work. So if Wings Gaming are able to position themselves in smaller skirmishes where the Chronosphere and the Death Ward can't be dropped at the same time, they just have better innate control and damage for that stage in the game. And if they can get off to a post-laning phase lead, they might be able to capitalize on that in pretty big ways moving into the mid-game.
And KP is going to move down here. I thought for a second that the Timbersaw was going to try and move in for a gank with that invisibility rune. Instead, he's just going to head back mid, push out the creep wave, and head off on his merry little way. But we're seeing again that the CS battle very much into their favor. I would say that relative to what you're getting out of the off lane right now from Wings, is How is going to get stomped up and probably punched a couple of times by Faith Beyond. It's feeling significantly better into the favor of NewBee, and now the Chakram coming out, Faith might end up just going down. A lot of damage thrown out their way, and Timbersaw finds the kill.
Yeah, that was a nice rotation. Exactly what I was just talking about, right? If the Void had dropped that Chronosphere without the rotation from Moo, it barely would have even touched the Elder Titan. But because Moo rotated up, you need either him or the Witch Doctor around all the time to make that Chronosphere valuable at this stage.
Well, Shadow now on this Huskar trying to build into an armlet, still does not have it up. Occasionally we've seen a couple of Huskars go like no boots into armlet immediately and then trying to take down Roshan, but that's not going to be the play this time around. I gotta say, I'm just worried about what's going to happen. KP's going to have his blink like around the same time when this Huskar is trying to take down his second tier 1 tower, and I'd be a little bit concerned about that.
He also did go for a value point of Inner Vitality, which is not something we always see with the Rush Husk builds. Sometimes we do see Berserker's Blood just take priority, so that you're able to use that armlet to knock down Roshan solo. Whether or not that armlet is coming out fast enough for this game to really functionally work out the way Wings want it to is going to depend largely, once again, on the way the teams are positioned for these first couple of team fights. Lucky Bash up top, but oh, Stomp is going to miss. Time walk away.
Doing good stuff indeed. The wraparound is going to be here. Blink and Ice Ice, they want to make something happen, but immediately Chuan spots them out, backs out, and they're not going to be able to find it. So a couple more rotations, not completely working into the favor of Wings, but they might be able to push off of this. They've got a lot of heroes in the area, and this feels like it could be that time of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you got a Juggernaut and a Huskar. The Huskar has the armlet up. Juggernaut does have the level 1 healing ward. They do need to start applying pressure with this, especially before the Faceless Void has his own innate damage.
And speaking of him, he is going to get caught out there. Went for the casual Perseverance for the moment, but you can see Moo having none of it already. Oh, that's a ping. You can see that Moo is already going to be able to push out this creep wave pretty effectively.
Yeah. I mean, that is one of the benefits of having the mid Timbersaw, is that he is going to be getting a lot more experience in a Timbersaw that is forced to relegate into the jungle. And with that extra experience early on in the game, he's able to have the Timber Chain for mobility, but still be able to kind of push those waves out, right? So pushing into him will be sort of difficult, They need to make sure they're doing it before the Axe gets going. And actually, too late because Axe is about to buy his Blink Dagger.
Yeah, this is, I mean, he's incredibly farmed for this point in the game, and
Yeah.
I kind of do like the how going back for what I'm assuming is going to be the Battle Fury. It does seem to make a decent amount of sense, at least. I don't think he'd be going for like a Lincoln's or anything this early. And we've seen it out of a couple of other Voids when it's in the context of these early pushing strategies to keep those creep waves pushed out. So we'll see if it ends up working for him.
Yeah, it's not a super common build on Void, partially because the thing that Void really suffers from is a lack of attack speed.
It looks like down here towards the bottom lane, they're smoked up. Axe looking for the call, is going to be able to get it now onto Shadow. The roll-in follow-up, so much damage being done, and the Chronosphere on the back lane, they've also caught Ice Ice. Shadow is going to end up getting dunked there. They find the kill, and meanwhile, KP just going to end up running away from them for the moment. Blink still getting control. There's a bash, pretty lucky, and the follow-up stun coming from the Earth Spirit is going to be enough. That was a kill onto the Axe, so a little bit unfortunate there, but they're still going to be able to find more. Faith Beyond Falling, and 4 dead for the 2 of NewBee.
Yeah, I'm actually really concerned for Wings Gaming at this point, right? Well, this is a draft that needs to be executed with a level advantage. Elder Titan's innate kit does not really get much better with gold relative to how much better it gets with an experience advantage. Same thing for Huskar. Like, it's nice to put gold on a Huskar, but what he really wants is to get off to a good start. To some degree, at least until later portions of the game, the same is true for Juggernaut. So all of their heroes, at least through the first 20 to 25 minutes, are very level dependent, need a couple of core items maybe, but should really be rolling through at this stage in the game effectively, especially considering the Faceless Void carry is going for an atypical build that minimizes some of his damage output at this stage.
Yeah, this is, you did see that Huskar was almost able to survive through that, tried to turn onto the Axe, but at the end of the day, it still just is such a great answer to the hero as a whole, and the whole concept of him, that Shadow's going to have time. And the fact of the matter is they haven't taken a tower.
Mid lane.
Are they going to be able to find that? Okay, diving in, Faith Beyond, in some trouble. They jump forward and are going to throw out the kick. Not quite there, but he stood show fall. Yeah, no way to stop it. So they end up being able to take down the bottom tier 1 tower at the very least, but you're also going to trade that one out as they get the kill with the Witch Doctor onto the top tier 1 tower, and I would imagine that they're going to come back and contest this Shadow hitting the tier 2. Like, KP is there, and he's ready to jump.
Yeah, but once again, this is kind of a huge problem just conceptually with Wings draft. Their draft is... The intention here is that they get off to a fast start, then they apply pressures 3 or 4 onto towers, the way that they just did, and in doing so, force NewBee to come and act, take favorable team fights, and that's where their experience comes from. Because when you're grouped up, you get less experience for each individual hero, right? You're taking fewer resources off the map. But NewBee aren't playing that game. When Wings group up as 4, NewBee just go kill the 1 and give up the tower. And the gold is not really that valuable to Wings Gaming's draft at this stage in the game. It's nice, but what they really need is to make sure that they're maintaining an experience advantage. They do that by getting kills, and NewBee just are reading it like a book.
And I think the other thing is that as we take a look at this, the Battle Fury almost completed for How on this Void, one of the things that you need to be able to do in the context of these heavy pushing drafts is we see the Weave come out for Shadow. I'd actually have to talk about this in a second, as it looks like they might be spoiling for a fight. But what I was going to say is that you want to be able to kill off those heroes that are countering your push. The Void is going to be moving along this top lane here, and they want to be able to jump in and find a kill on him. But he's just going to be able to continue to push out this top lane with immunity, and it's going to be very difficult for them to punish that. And you can see back mid lane, they're constantly being hemmed in while Void is getting farm. And so they can't like bring one hero to get a solo kill on this Void. They would need to bring several, and then that leaves them a little bit open in the mid lane if there is pressure there. So again, the Battle Fury Void being put to that position 1 and then Axe getting moved to the off lane, just a really smart decision by NewBee.
Yeah, I mean, NewBee also have, like, across their team a 5 to 6 level advantage. They're sitting at about 5,000 experience in their favor because of the way the strategy works, as we've already outlined for Wings. And honestly, I think NewBee are doing that strategy better than Wings are, right? They have the one hero out, as you mentioned, with How, just chopping away. And he got the bulk of a tier 2 tower on his own in exchange for a tier 1 that, honestly, NewBee don't care that much about.
No, and
They don't need that tower.
you look at it also, bottom lane is being pushed in while Axe is going to cut the creep wave. NewBee is doing a good job with this, and they're finding the movement that they need. As far as getting back into this and Wings taking a little bit of the advantage for themselves, where do you see that happening? Is it a play towards Roshan? Is it grouping up as 5 and taking down the tower in the top lane and then moving along towards tier 2 top? Or what do you think is the play here?
Yeah,
As
they're
we
going
see,
to group
oh my
up
god,
top, but
Chronosphere
it's-
dropped. Blink is going to end up dying here, possibly. They do have Graves still if they need to use it, and he's going to be fine for the moment, but might end up still losing his life. That's a nice sleep, keeping him alive, but they should be able to sort of settle after that one. That was close.
Yeah, unfortunately, that does mean the Chronosphere combination is down, so they can actually push onto this tower, maybe even dive it.
Oh, nice stun coming out. Yeah, they call off the defense, as it looks like they don't want to overextend. Witch Doctor picks up a Hand of Midas as well. I guess that's a thing.
Yeah. Well, you know, it works out really well in this particular case because he wants to get the Ags up if possible, and moreover, he wants to make sure that he's not falling behind in levels because Wings Gaming's draft becomes far more toothless if they're not ahead in levels. So for Witch Doctor, I honestly think that that's a pretty good pickup in a way that I don't normally think is the case for Midas, especially this late. I do think that Wings Gaming, they are vulnerable to losing a team fight here. They need to be careful with the way that they're pushing. But if they can manage to knock down this tier 2 and continue to apply pressure, they might be able to reassert control.
That's going to be an Earth Splitter coming through. Chuan in a lot of trouble. He does die, and in the midst of all of this, Shadow has gotten jumped upon. Can they actually finish him off, though? Moo's doing a decent chunk of damage, but there's going to be the Grave, and where's the Axe? He's already been killed off. They need to get the heck out of here. Doing a lot of damage. There's another jump through. Chakram not going to hit the second time, and meanwhile, the Huskar is going to fall. The Magnetize being reapplied. Ice might go down here. No, he's going to be able to survive, but Kaka, with the double, kills off that Shadow Demon. Well played.
Yeah, that engagement was really smart out of Wings, right? They knew, that
nicely played.
Unfortunate, but the forcing out the engagement by the tier 2 tower, by pressuring that tower when you know the Chronosphere is down, was the right play by Wings. They got caught a little too deep in, and it became slightly too intractable. But up until that point where they over-engaged slightly, where they just kind of been able to take 2 by the tower and probably could have backed out, that was exactly what they needed. They can continue to do that, bait out the Chronosphere combo, then re-engage after that onto towers. They might be able to find themselves into a bouncing favorable position, but otherwise, NewBee really have the tools that they need in order to stay ahead.
And you can see right here the Moo Timbersaw down to 9 Bloodstone charges. It's not what you want to get right off the bat with it, but they're still going to be in an okay position. Yeah. Also, the Ancients getting stacked up continuously. Eventually, How is going to be able to move back and try and take those out. But it does feel like, even though they were able to take that team fight a little bit better for Wings, I would say, the Tier 2 tower still stands top. So yeah, they're still not getting those objectives that they need. And I feel like the further that this game goes on, Wings' draft is not going to do what it needs to do, as How finishes off the Mask of Madness. Oh man, what a throwback.
Yeah, this is a little something borrowed, a little something old, and I'm waiting for the something new here. he's got Juggernaut's Battle Fury. He's got his old Mask of Madness, thinking maybe a new refresher or something. Throw it on top.
There we go. It's beautiful to see it. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to end up going for that, but
probably not. No, God, I hope not. But yeah, at the end of the day, NewBee are pretty happy to just force Wings Gaming to pick an engagement fight.
Earth Spirit also picks up a Hand of Midas, so NewBee very much securing their late game and not afraid of what Wings are bringing their way. Yeah. That is pretty greedy. I'm not sure if I agree with this.
You know, it's all about the levels, though. Is what it comes down to. You get that Midas, even if you get hemmed into your base, the ability to actually crack high ground is pretty minimal here for Wings because all of their push are slow siege, right? They've got the Juggernaut and that's it. So as long as NewBee are able to control the Roche Pit, and not feed in 4-man wipes. Those are basically the two things that they need to do. Not die in mass and control the Roche Pit. The rest of it, controlling their own towers, controlling their side of the map. Nice, but not entirely necessary for them to get to the stage where this is winnable.
Man, Moo there just jumping right at that Dazzle, causing a little bit of trouble. We do also see the Timbersaw now at the haste rune, going to head on through his own jungle. Blink might end up actually getting shit inside of him, and that could be a problem. Despite the fact that Timbersaw runs rather quickly, if he gets Omni Slash, he's still going to end up... Well, I guess he's got Ghost Scepter already. Man, Moo is so farmed. That's crazy.
And he'll be more farmed when he's around a Chronosphere because he's going to instantly get 2 or 3 charges as well. Bear in mind, some of his farm is below its market value because he is sitting at only 9 Bloodstone charges. But
well, it does look like now it's time to move on into the Roshan pit. Satyr Mindstealer is there to tank up a little bit of the damage that's coming through. Helm of the Dominator armlet as well as that Dragon Lance for Huskar. So a very tanky hero already at 2,100 HP when he's got his armlet on.
And meanwhile, while this is happening, the Axe is going to be moved on bottom. Tried to blink away, but the Juggernaut's waiting over there.
He's almost able to get out of there. KP is going to end up just TPing away. They find the kill, though. Oh, man. If he would have called, he would have survived, I think.
Yeah, probably would have, actually. Good. That's a very good point. Unfortunately, he thought that he'd be able to just get away. Yeah, and now the Aegis fallen without any contest. Remember what we had said, like if NewBee are able to control the Roche Pit and not give up 4-man wipes, they probably win this game. But controlling the Roche Pit is a key part of that 2-part strategy.
Oh my god, Moo taking a lot of damage, but How has dropped the Chronosphere and now needs to get out of there. There's going to be the Timber Chain away for the moment. They do have that ultimate coming in, and now also going to chase it down with Kaka, gets the silence, in a little bit of trouble. Magnetize applied onto one, ends up getting the reapplication. Fate Beyond still alive, but Kaka is going to fall. So NewBee, a little bit of a testy situation. They saved the Earth Spirit, but that is also going to throw away the, or rather save the Timbersaw, but it throws the Earth Spirit's life away.
Yeah, NewBee was in a really good position this game, but they just threw it away, to be honest. They have to completely re-earn it now. Their BKB coming out on Faceless Void. That's nice. That deals with a lot that Wings Gaming have, but it's not going to prevent the primary issue, which is that anybody who tries to kill in Chronosphere is going to get graved unless the Dazzle is inside the Chronosphere, and also there's a massive amount of right-click damage for this stage in the game coming out for Wings Gaming, as they have now started to get up toward that level 16 threshold for some of their heroes.
That's a problem. How is going to keep these lanes pushed out to the best of his ability, and you know, if he gets down here far enough, he might even be able to put himself in a position where he can start threatening the tier 3s. And you can see the tier 2 is just now going down. Like, they do have to respond to this eventually, and the problem is they can't really just bring back one hero, because How is probably going to be able to, well, probably not kill him off since he doesn't have Chronosphere available, but yeah. There's the rotation back by Blink. How is going to just time walk away, and I imagine TP towards farming.
Yeah, this is great by How, just forcing them to bounce back and play that whack-a-mole so that he's just buying out time from that Aegis, just trying to make it expire. Doing a good job of it. He is getting his farm while he's down here as well, so it's not like he's just wasting his time trying to wait for that Aegis to expire. And Wings Gaming have a notable advantage for right now, for this moment, especially considering the fact that they are still playing at almost 7,500 network disadvantage. Like, this is the moment for them to go out and make something happen.
And I feel like they particularly have to do that in light of the fact that you've got this Witch Doctor who's halfway to his Aghanim Scepter and still has the Hand of Midas, giving him gold and those levels. Level 11 on him, so level 2 ultimate. You take a look at the Earth Spirit who's been able to pick up the urn, and now I'm assuming, is this going back for like a veil at this point, or what's the idea behind the Robe of the Magi?
Yes.
Am I remembering that wrong?
Right. No, you're right. I mean,
no, it doesn't do that anymore. I'm dumb. Sorry.
Wait, what? No, you're right. It's 5 a.m. 5 a.m. casting. I'm gonna go back to that.
So Oblivion Staff into Orchid, I'm guessing.
Maybe. We'll see if he actually
What he's trying
gets
to do.
far enough out with that item progression to actually make a difference with it. I'm kind of surprised he's not going into the Veil. Right? Because, like, you have a pretty decent chunk of damage that you're going to be able to throw out on that. Like, the Maledict is a lot of magical damage. The Time Lock is a ton of magical damage when you're doing it with the Mask of Madness, right? People forget, but that is going to be amplified by Veil. The Whirling Death is magical as well. And not to mention the ultimate coming out of the Earth Spirit. So,
See, the unfortunate part about this, though, is that you still don't have a great way to keep them from continuing to split push, and even got a little bit of a lucky illusion rune for the axe, so he can keep these creep waves pushed out with these illusions fairly consistently. A very, very frustrating situation for Wings.
it's a blade mail, I think. It's a blade mail. I don't know. It's
Okay.
just early in the day, man. Yeah, it should be a blade mail. Now that I'm actually thinking about what he has instead of what I thought that he should have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Timbersaw is farmed as hell, man. He's got Boots of Travel up, he's got the Ghost Scepter, he's got the Bloodstone, and
Whoa. Shadow Demon Brown Boots Lincoln Sphere? Holy hell. That's a first.
just got a Lincoln Spear, I guess.
I mean, it's all for Shadow, so that's a thing.
Okay, so the Blade Mail does come out. Sanjin Yasha coming out here in the Juggernaut. What is he so concerned with that he needed the Lincoln Sphere? Because
Dunk? Oh, you know what? That's
Just-
what it is.
is it just the dunk?
Yeah, I mean, that's the counter to Huskar at this point.
It is just... That is a huge investment to stop one spell
I
for
mean,
4 seconds.
if it works...
It does solve that problem, right?
Yeah.
It is the only way to solve that problem. And also, NewBee do not have spammable spells to lift the Lincoln Sphere. So it's not like the... Ooh, boy.
That's a
Nice
lift up.
catch.
Yeah, a lot of trouble. Kaka's going to fall here. With the disruption, just going to drop it down as well. A little bit of wonderful stuff there. He actually throws out the magnetize as well. I guess the only way that they're really going to be able to stop this is with a Witch Doctor cask to try and break the Lincoln Sphere.
Right.
But they need to recognize that that's what Innocence is trying to do.
Well, Axe also does have Battle Hunger. So if he doesn't open the fight with that, he can always lift the Lincolns with the Battle Hunger. At least until there's a BKB available. Which is going to be quite a while here, since it does not look like Huskar's planning.
Shadow jumped upon. They call back now. It's going to try and pull him a little bit out of position, and they do still have the Grave. They are going to end up being able to throw on that Lincoln Sphere in just a second if I want to. Timber ends up committing suicide, realizing he was going to burn down, and the whole time through you've also got How who's going to be able to take down this tier 3 tower. He just time walks away, so still fine. I feel like they have to be able to come and deal with this Innocence eventually.
Right, and the other problem is that Wings Gaming are doing a pretty decent job of making their force known on the map, which not all teams would be doing when playing in this position, but I mean, everything that they're building for the Huskar, right? So later on in this game, when NewBee have 3.5 major cores and Wings Gaming have Huskar and then the insurance policy of a Juggernaut, NewBee are just going to railroad them.
I'm more and more concerned as this game goes on that they're not going to, like, they have to hit this timing now. They can't afford to sort of let it sit back and just try and farm up some more, because all of this investment into the Huskar has to coalesce into like a single push towards high ground. And we said, you know, it is going to be able to block that one spell for that 1 second that it's going to end up mattering. That 1 second can win them the game if they hit it correctly. But I don't know. It's still a concerning point, I would say.
I mean, also the Dazzle is building an Octarine, presumably just to be able to get the Shallow Grave out more often, right? Like, they are both of the supports are going all in on supporting the Huskar specifically, and everything else is gravy. It's not really on their minds.
Well, this is the other thing that Wings have done in the past. Like I was talking about previously, they ended up running the Alchemist Huskar draft, and first item on the Alchemist was an Aghanim Scepter, so that he was able to get a 4-second cooldown on his dunk with 65% damage, and they won that game. So Wings realize what's at stake here, and just trying to choose their team fights very carefully. I still can't believe, though, I mean, the thing that's most cool to me about Wings as a team is that they are always going to take the item that they think gives them the best possibility to win. It's not about the meta. It's never about the meta.
Honestly, they're not even necessarily grabbing the item that they think gives them the best chance to win. They're grabbing the item that... we'll have to come back to this.
Oh, God, they end up being able to drop down the Chronosphere. KP on top of Shadow, doing a lot of damage, and he is going to end up getting dropped. They get the dunk. No Lincoln Sphere this time, because guess what? Shadow Demon a little bit too far away. And now, with the Huskar dead, Aegis already expired, NewBee with the fresh Aghanims on Chuan are going to be able to start to make things happen.
Yeah, so what I was trying to say there is that they're not even building the stuff that will make them more likely to win. Like, there are definitely statistically better builds for Wings Gaming to have gone in this game for overall potential for success. But what they're doing is they're maximizing their opportunity to win in the stage of the game that they are specializing in, right? You know, Wings Gaming love to take games between 25 and 35 minutes. They are mid-game fiends. They are absolute killers, and that's how they move into NewBee successfully, while many teams in the world are unable to do so. NewBee likes to take games closer to that like 35 to 45 minute mark, and Wings come in underneath them and pull them under with those currents. So for Wings, yeah, their build here is pretty unconventional, and it will fall off fairly hard. They don't have as much of a late game insurance policy as most teams would build, and that late game insurance policy would probably increase their likelihood to win. But you know, they know their strengths, and they know this is the period of time that they have to be executing, so they might as well build to maximize for right now.
And I'm looking at this game, and it's starting to feel like that maximizing point, the sort of, you know, the moment that Wings were hoping to find is closing rapidly. You've got Faceless Void now with the BKB, Mask of Madness, Monkey King Bar, and the Battle Fury. If he drops that Chronosphere on top of the Huskar, it's just over. Like, they're not going to be able to really stop this very effectively. And I mean, that was the one other nice part about this draft, outside of the pure damage that was already messing with them, was that he didn't have to worry too much about the Void because he had that Heaven's Halberd. And I don't know, it's a rough life right now for the Huskar. And oh my God, Shiva's Guard online for the Timbersaw. They do get a Diff Blade on the Jug, which means that he's going to be able to kill through the Ghost Scepters that are out there. But these Midases are coming into play. It's a scary situation indeed for NewBee.
Right. This is starting to get pretty out of control. Especially, I mean, the Ags has been up on the Witch Doctor for a little while now. Granted, the Timbersaw's still only sitting on 8 charges for the Bloodstone, so you've got a little consolation prize there for Wings Gaming, but
Isis is also going for an Octarine Core, by the way, I think.
Yeah, he is. Once again, just to get that shallow grave more often.
Oh God, Shadow is there. He might end up going down. They get the Chronosphere on the backline on absolutely everybody. A really nice armlet toggle, and looks like they're going to be able to bring down Chuan, this Witch Doctor. He's still away for the moment, doing a decent chunk. Can they bring him down? It doesn't look like it. They might be able to actually turn this. Shadow's still alive, finally taken out of there. The Juggernaut is going to start to go a little bit ham, though. So that's 3 heroes dead from NewBee. Wings, they lose their Jug, but lose their Huskar, but now Jug is starting to do damage.
That was such a good Chronosphere from Hal. Unfortunately, he decided to engage in that Chronosphere as well, just kind of bashing around and splashing out damage, trusting his team to be able to knock down that Huskar. I think he really does. Everybody on NewBee needs to recognize the level of priority that Wings Gaming have put onto Shadow in terms of combat efficacy, and to kill him first. It doesn't matter if you've got to land a 3-man Chronosphere on everybody but Shadow and then turn around to kill Shadow. Had NewBee done that, had Hal gone back for the Huskar first, they would have won that fight probably without losing a single soul. But instead they do a 3-3 trade because Shadow was allowed to solo 1v3. with how moving forward a little too fast.
You know what it is? And I think we might have even missed it in the in the midst of all of that. Dazzle, I was wondering how Huskar got back up to such high life.
Yeah, no, he got a
went for a
Bloodstone
Bloodstone, and the reason is so that way he was able to
Heal
die and then get healed back up afterwards.
Okay.
So, my life for Huskar indeed.
Yeah, that's even more gung-ho my life for Huskar than I expected with the Octarine. The Octarine
My
already
literal
seemed
life
like
for
pretty
Huskar.
aggressive support.
All right.
Wow. Yeah.
Jump in the call onto KB. Shadow is there as well. The Witch Doctor ultimate is going. They might be able to do enough. Still, it's going to be able to continue to throw out the damage. Blink. He's still alive in here. Shadow's still alive in here. How is going to die? Mu is also controlled. They only lost the Dazzle in the midst of that entire fight. He ended up Bloodstone suiciding. They do actually end up killing off the Huskar. A little bit unfortunate, but that's still the Aegis down. And Mu trying to find a kill here. Can he get anything else? It doesn't look like it. Oh my god. This game. This game.
Wings have to capitalize on this now, though. Like, they absolutely have to take a set of racks, if not two. They don't have the Aegis in hand anymore. There's no buyback on the Void. And the Bloodstone, basically that Bloodstone strategy on the Dazzle buys you about 2 minutes of advantage. And that's it. Right? So, this is that 2 minutes of advantage that it bought them. If they don't make objectives happen here, it was complete waste. But if they do, they just straight up next level NewBee.
I think that they might have been able to do this. You've got now the Huskar taking down the first lane of barracks. They don't have buyback on the Void. The Bloodstone Dazzle, the Lincoln Sphere Shadow Demon, everything thrown into Shadow right here. And they do jump now, is doing a lot of damage. Kaka might gonna end up falling. They end up being able to get the Shallow Grave off and still alive for the moment. Are they gonna be able to break him? They get the dunk. Huskar buys back immediately, wants to get into the midst of this fight, and is gonna try and TP out towards there. A secondary dunk. KP trying to take him down. So they end up losing that other lane of barracks, and Huskar is not gonna nearly be able to be here in time. He's just trying to push out these lanes.
That was a pretty weak buyback, to be honest. He's not going to be able to make up that gold farming here, and there's no way without Boots of Travel that he was going to get back into that fight. But they managed to get a lane of racks. They got a tier 3 tower out of it. The Dazzle is pretty much a grave machine at this point. He's got 4 Bloodstone charges, and that's pretty much all he owns.
Oh my god.
But they got, I mean, you got to give them credit. They utilized that very off-color Bloodstone choice to win 2 fights, and winning those 2 fights was converted into a third of their opponent's base. So, once again, it really does come all the way back down to Wings did not grab the items that gave them the statistically higher odds of winning, but they grabbed the items that gave them the best odds of winning in the time period that they know how to execute. And I love how self-aware this team is. It's one of the best reasons to watch them.
Well, and now Timbersaw still getting rather farmed, and as are the rest of the heroes of NewBee, but at a certain point in time, you got to be able to defend those objectives. They can keep these lanes pushed out fairly consistently. You can see the swing back. And the other thing that I'm starting to wonder at this point, you've still got a Huskar, or rather a Juggernaut with a Blink, Diffusal Blade, Battle Fury, Sanjin Yasa, Scotty. He's the top of the net worth right now, and
he's not nothing.
They need to be able to deal with them at a certain point. You now get the Aghanim Scepter on Timbersaw, so another great source of damage from them. It does look like how, with the Chrysalis now up and online, KP is going back for the Aghanim Scepter himself. He's only about 1,000 gold away from finishing it. Like, they're itemizing to deal with this. A big Chronosphere now would be great.
And take a gank here. They scanned. They want to just wrap around on somebody. Not able to find anybody, though. I'm honestly kind of surprised they didn't just walk literally into the base and take a fight here.
They send out those disruption illusions also of the Juggernaut, and he's going to just hit away at these barracks. And you can see with the backdoor protection off, they don't have a way to stop it, really. I guess the coconuts are pretty good from the Witch Doctor. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's something, but those illusions will chip away, right? Mm-hmm. You know, NewBee are not out of this by any means, especially because the Faceless Void did go for a Battle Fury. Like, 1 lane of supers is not the end of the world. Timbersaw now sitting on top of 16 Bloodstone charges, so he's caught back up. if they're able to move out and just
Ooh.
kind of grab some picks, they still go, I would assert, late game better, especially given the builds out of the Dazzle and the Shadow Demon not necessarily being the best scaling. I mean, once again, Shadow Demon even bought a Blink Dagger so that he can get close enough to do the Lincoln Sphere before. I mean, there are other uses for a Blink Dagger on Shadow Demon, but that's pretty much the primary reason that you get that, right? Make sure you're able to get that Lincoln Sphere off without getting caught in the Chronosphere. So he can sit way back. Soon as Chronosphere goes off on the Huskar, Shadow Demon can then blink into range and throw down that Lincoln's.
Well, NewBee go for a second smoke now, and it does look like they're going to be wrapping around, realizing what's coming. But Wings already set up for him. All of the heroes realize exactly what NewBee is doing. They blink forward, trying to go for a call. KP not going to be able to find it. Shadow is right up front and center there. Pops the BKB immediately and does manage to throw out that call. Double Ags coming out. Shadow dropping low. They are going to end up dropping the Chronos through the catch on the Innocents, and that is going to be a kill. KP ends up dying, but they've already lost the Witch Doctor as well. Oh, maybe going to be able to find a bit more Omni/Slash kills off. How? They don't have any... Faceless Void's gone. I think that they might have been able to do this. Can they actually find anything else with Moo? It doesn't look like it. Blink is just going to right-click onto him. They have the Diff Blade to take away his mana. He is going to TP out, but ends up getting broken. And a wipe. Ultra kill for Blink. They're going to run down mid.
Okay, so they ignored Blink for too long. He's going to check Roche, but that's way off. And then he's just going to, go straight down this bottom lane. He should be able to get racked.
Buyback?
Well, no, there's a buyback on How.
Buyback from How, also a buyback from the Axe, and they need to make something happen right here. Blink is so huge, and they don't really have a great way to stop this. I mean, oh man, having to commit those really hurts. You would have loved to be able to get that Aghanim Scepter on the Axe. But the team fights, it just feels like Wings were so prepared for them.
Yeah, and the other thing is that, like, NewBee had a time where they could have shut this Juggernaut down, is the painful part of this, right? They had a period where they were fairly well ahead in the gold, even more ahead in the experience, and Juggernaut does hit a lull after he gets his Battle Fury, where he doesn't really contribute very much other than sustain. So, I mean, I expected NewBee to be much more aggressive onto the Juggernaut, but they have more or less ignored him, and that is coming back to bite them pretty sufficiently here.
And Blink has now got the Moon Shard online, the most fired hero in a game by a long shot. Granted, we have not seen Faceless Void just go straight for him. There's all of this attention that's being given as we end up seeing a jump forward Chuan very rapidly going to die. But there's all this attention that's being given right now to the Huskar, and there's no response right here for Blink. Nobody is paying him any mind, and that really has to change. I think that it can. Like, you got Faceless Void here who's going to just be able to destroy him inside of a Chronosphere if you catch him. But they need to find a way to make that happen.
Right, and the other thing is that if the Axe is able to get him into a good call, right, and throw on the Blade Mail, that would be a decent chunk of the Juggernaut's health in and of itself. The issue is that he's being forced to use the call on the Huskar. So a good Chronosphere on the Huskar, kill the Huskar off inside of that Chronosphere. Like, we barely seen any solid Death Ward Chronosphere combinations, and you really need to be landing that combo in these fights, or why have the Witch Doctor at all? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. And he does provide... we haven't seen that the Maledict's not going to be able to do as much as you would hope for. Faceless Void actually does buy out there, and he's got himself a Demon Edge. This is going to be to finish off that nice little Daedalus, I would imagine, at this point. I almost kind of wonder if it would be worth it to go back for a Bloodthorn himself, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the option that he opts for. The Blink in, and Roshan soon to fall. Who do you feel like takes this at this point?
Who takes Roshan? Or the Aegis, rather?
Yeah.
Probably...
I mean, I guess the Huskar? Yeah, he drops the helm.
Yeah. I mean... You don't really have any other good options, right?
This could be a nice play, though. They're moving in here, and Chronosphere is available. If How can find him right here at this point in time, Aegis on the ground, Huskar ends up being able to take it. They got it back.
Yeah. Not quite fast enough from NewBee. Not just a little off of the level of awareness that they needed in order to make that happen. Wings Gaming are just in absolutely dominant fashion at this stage, right? Like, it's 21-20, so it's hard to keep in mind that NewBee don't have answers for what's going on here. They allowed Wings Gaming too much space on the insurance policy of their own late game, and this is the sort of thing that Wings Gaming as a team are just so adept at punishing as a mentality.
Well, and it looks like, at least for now, the BKB on the Timber Saw, it's going to allow them that freer range of movement. You also buy out on the Witch Doctor. Not a whole lot of buybacks online for anybody. This is the last stand, the final countdown. Everything's going to end up coming down to this, and with essentially and ostensibly 3 lives on this Huskar, Satanic now there. This is, I don't know, it's 2 big heroes that are difficult to kill.
Yeah, so, I mean, NewBee have some tools that they can use, especially if this game goes late.
Stunned.
But
they missed the Timber Chain away. Shadow still taking damage there. KP is going to end up getting caught here in a second. Moo throws it out. Oh my god, the damage! Juggernaut is there as well. They're just going to end up running through them. They only have Faith Beyond in the Chronosphere, and KP runs into it as well. It's all gone wrong. There's no buybacks. I think that this is it. They've done it. Ultra kill for Wings. GG gets called. And Wings Gaming, with the most absurd of item choices and just a really solid gameplay all in all, they end up beating down NewBee. This was a hell of a series. I can't wait to see these teams play each other forever. This is my new brand of Dota. I want to watch it.
I said it at the beginning of the series, and I stand by it. The NewBee vs. Wings was the game series that I wanted to see this tournament. And this game by itself, just the interesting compilation of strategic build that Wings put forward here made the whole series worthwhile, I think.
Well, this has been a wonderful series to watch. I didn't want to jinx it, so I didn't bring it up, but it's pretty emblematic also of our luck that one of the best games so far of the series also is the one that we don't end up running into any lag issues. So you love to see that. It's always a roll of the dice, and the fact that we were able to get this last one in just perfect clarity, I love it. Thank you, Perfect World. You were kind to us today. Good stuff coming out, though. Wings end up taking it. That means that they are going to move on, and they're in the grand finals. NewBee are going to have to move down and face off against the losers finals. There's still a couple of series that are going to get played. Tomorrow we're going to start off with LGD Gaming versus Digital